Hi Trek leaders, coming to you once again in a video venue. We haven't done one of these for a couple of months, but wanted to make sure we got back together and talked about some things face to camera again and reminded us of some of the things that we're dealing with on a week-to-week basis in Trek. One of the first things I want to remind you of is that we are dealing with kids on a weekly basis, and this is the very front lines of ministry. Kids are at their most formable, shapeable time in their life, and we get a chance to speak truth into their life. And so we need to do it intentionally, but we also have to be on the lookout for the fact that we are going to be under attack, that Satan does not want this to happen, and that it's very easy to be dissected, pulled apart, and put into different types of things so that we're not all on the same page. So I want to remind you of a couple things. We're really going to dig in today to the small group environment, the small respond time where you're up in your room with your kids. But also I want to pull that lens out a little bit and tell you some of the things that we have realized about that environment. First, we have realized very quickly that we needed to be more intentional about how we structure the large group time so that you have time in your small groups. And we've got that really nailed down to some very succinct timetables. And so you should be seeing 25 to 35 minutes of small group time every week. And we've got it timed out so it works that way. Second thing that we've noticed is that in the curriculum, it's a very good curriculum, but in the small respond time, there was not a lot of scripture digging. And that's something I have a high value for. I know my staff has a high value for, and I know you have a high value for. We want these kids opening their Bibles, digging into scripture, seeing what God says. And so every week in your trail guide, there is an additional section called Write In, where you will be able to see different passages that we've looked up that correspond with the curriculum so that you can get your kids digging, so you can get them making connections, and that they can see that this big God story is connected from the beginning to the very end by actually looking at the text. And so make sure you're looking at that in your trail guide and using that in your small group. One of the things we've been made aware of as a staff is that some kids are coming back with vastly different experiences from small respond time, which means that our small groups are not very much the same in many circumstances. And so I want to give you a couple of reminders that will help us make things a little bit more unified when we're talking about these kids getting a similar experience. Now, we're not looking for uniform or that you can't add creativity, but when I have a parent who has approached me, which I have, that says, well, my kid was in Trek, one was in second hour, one was in third hour, and this is what their small group experience was second hour, and this is a totally different experience third hour, but yet we all had the same curriculum. It begins to concern me that we're sending different messages and that we're not being intentional as we had planned to be. And so I want you to understand that you really need to look at the curriculum and make evaluations and say, you know what are we doing with these respond questions? And if your kids are really digging the respond questions, then rest there for a few minutes, but please don't skip the other things, because the different learning styles really dig into those things a little bit differently, and you meet the needs of the different learning styles when you use all of the curriculum. But what I don't want you to hear is that you need to get all of it done. I know some of you have been very, very conscientious about doing all of the curriculum, and it seems like there's not enough time. And if you do all of the curriculum, I'm pretty sure there won't be enough time, and so please feel free to make some calls and to make some minor tweaks and changes and personalize things in minor ways so that it becomes your own, so that you can fit it into the time without rushing, but that the main goals of the activities and the lesson of the day are still met, so that if a kid comes second hour or third hour or first hour or Saturday night, that we're sending them home with an intentional message and that we build on that message week by week. Within that, I will commit to you that Jill and Sarah and I and Sue will be evaluating the curriculum every week, because some of the activities, I know some of you have said, well, I don't get that activity, it didn't make any sense, and I wish we wouldn't have done it. And we're going to be evaluating those activities on a weekly basis. Sometimes we'll give you the same ones they have. Sometimes we'll say, hey, don't do this one. We're going to send this back and ask True to take a look at this one again because we don't think it fits here. And so we'll be doing that evaluation even as we're asking you to do the evaluation. But the main point is to make sure that the goal for each week, the message that we're sending, that we're going to be building on the rest of the year, is met in each of those small group settings. So make sure you're looking at those things. And the large group leaders are also looking at their teaching so that it ties into your small group teaching. A couple of reminders, and I need to look at my notes, so sorry about that. But a couple of things I want to remind you of as we finish this video is first, that because of numbers, that we've seen in some of the things, you may be having some adjustments made to your small group. We may be moving kids from one group to another because some of your small groups are so huge that it's becoming difficult to do small group or small respond. And some of your groups are so small that there's not a lot of momentum being gained there. So we're going to be moving kids, and we're going to try to do that in friendships and pairs so that the relationship aspect that we've really emphasized is still met. But please be encouraging, please be helpful in those processes, and please help the kids to know that this is for their own good and for their best, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we make as little adjustment as possible, but that we make sure that the small groups are actually small. Second thing is please read your trail guide. This is our main mode of communication with you each week, and what we've been noticing as we've come into the room on Sundays is that sometimes we said, hey, did you read the trail guide for this? And they're like, well, I haven't read it in a couple weeks. And it's not just been one or two, but it's been kind of a big group of people, and that's very concerning because it's difficult for us to be on the same page if we're not reading the same things. So please take the time. We're really trying to simplify it, make it easy to read, and really concise. And so please take time to dig into that and know what's really going on for the week. And then please remember that this is something that we've created in Trek is a kid-centered environment. What this means is that we are looking to do the things that it takes for a kid to grab on and engage. Sometimes there are things in the curriculum and things that are suggested that we do in the large group that I, as an adult, or just from the mindset that I come from, I cringe at and I go, I really don't want to do that. I feel kind of foolish. But when I see it in action, the kids are really engaging with it. And so I really want you to take a few moments as you're watching your small group in the large group time, see what they're responding to, what's really engaging them, and take note of those things. And in your small respond time, what are they really grabbing onto? What are they engaging? Some small groups are going to engage with the response questions and not with the activity, and some will be the exact opposite. But if we are truly going to reach these kids, help them understand who Christ is and how He wants them to live, then we have to do it at their level. We have to break down our language to simple words. We have to get rid of words like righteousness and things like that because they don't understand that big word. We have to break that down and explain the concept of righteousness without bringing big words into the picture. And we have to really look at ourselves and say, is this something that I just don't want to do and they're going to engage in it, or is this something that they're truly not engaging in? This is our evaluation process, and we get to do it because the ministry is so important. These kids are at a critical juncture in life, and we want the truth to get through. So thanks for all that you're doing. I really appreciate your partnership, really have appreciated your feedback, and I'm really looking forward to what God is going to do during the rest of this Trek year. Have a good week.